Okay, so you're back for more. Huh. Well, you know what that means, right? You want all that sweet, sweet tech news, but without the fluff. You want that straight to the point, actionable stuff. That's exactly what we do here. And today, we're taking you on a deep dive into Andrew Kagan's latest March 14th, 2025 newsletter. It's jam-packed, you know?
Yeah, it really is. But don't worry, we're going to break it down for you.
Okay.
And we've picked out some of the juiciest bits that we think you'll actually, find useful. Whether you're a hardcore coder or someone who just wants to keep their finger on the pulse, we got something for everyone.
Okay, so where are we headed in this deep dive? Well, Andrew's got us covered on 8 key areas. We're going to hit Azure, then swing by Microsoft 365, see what's up with the Power Platform and Dynamics 365. Then we'll head on over to DevOps and SRE, data and AI, all the way to security and compliance. Oh, well, we'll check out some cool new stuff in learning and certifications, and finish up with some big picture industry news and trends. Buckle up, right?
It's going to be a ride. All right, so Azure first, Microsoft's cloud platform where everything starts these days, almost.
Seems like it, yeah.
Well, if you want just a general look at what's new, there's this Azure update video. Came out March 7th. Good place to start, just to get your bearings.
Right.
Now, for those of you working with the really sensitive data, the stuff you got to keep under lock and key, there's this deep dive on the Azure Confidential Ledger. Really dives deep into how to keep your data safe and sound and tamper-proof.
Which is getting more and more crucial, with all the everything going on these days.
Absolutely. And for the sysadmins and devs out there, there's this video about sysinternals tools on Azure. Now, you know sysinternals, right? Those super useful tools for troubleshooting and diagnosing Windows systems.
Oh, yeah. Those are lifesavers sometimes.
Well, guess what? They're available on Azure now.
Okay, so streamlining things right.
Yeah.
Making it easier for everyone.
Now, let's talk AI. Big one.
Always a hot topic, right?
Absolutely. So Microsoft's pushing this thing called Azure AI Foundry. It's basically a whole treasure trove of resources for AI development. There's a video to get you started, and then there's this announcement about all these new AI models they're rolling out, plus tools for customization, to make the AI do exactly what you need it to do. Oh, and upgrades to their enterprise AI agents. Those are getting a boost too.
So what are they trying to make AI development easier for more people?
Yeah, I think that's the goal. They want to make enterprise-grade AI accessible to more businesses, not just the big players who can afford to have, huge research teams.
Interesting. So democratizing AI, huh?
Yeah, kind of. And if you're already deep into building smart applications, the ones that need to find information quickly and accurately, there's this video on Azure Design Blueprint, Advanced Retrieval Augmented Generation, R, Yeah,
RAG. I know RAG. So this is version 2.0, right? More advanced, more powerful.
Exactly. Okay, so moving on to Microsoft 365, right? The good old Office suite, but in the cloud. Always evolving, always adding new features.
Yeah, and they're really emphasizing security now, especially when it comes to managing who has access to what. There's this video, Entra ID P1 versus P2, the magic of risk-based conditional access. So, Entra ID, right. It's all about identity and access management.
Yeah. So this is about, the different tiers, right? And how they handle security.
Exactly. And the key here is this thing called risk-based conditional access.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you set up these dynamic rules to determine who can access certain resources based on how risky the access attempt seems.
Interesting. So adapting to the situation rather than just having these static rules.
Exactly. More dynamic, more secure.
Makes sense.
And to keep that security theme going, there's another video on secure access to internet resources with Microsoft Entra Suite. So they're really pushing this idea of having a secure, holistic environment within their cloud ecosystem.
Yeah, keeping everything locked down tight. Right. Now, for those who like to get the big picture, the full rundown on both Microsoft 365 and the Power Platform, there's a video of their weekly call from March 11th. Lots of good stuff in there, new features, announcements, the whole 9 yards.
A good way to stay up to date, for sure. And there's one more thing in the Microsoft 365 section that caught my eye. It's about improving the employee experience. This video on transforming employee experiences with stunning dashboards in Viva Connections. Now, you know Viva Connections, right?
Yeah, it's like that central hub within Microsoft Teams. Right?
Exactly. So they're saying that by using really well-designed dashboards in Viva Connections, you can actually boost employee engagement and make communication much smoother.
Yeah, that's the idea. Okay, so Power Platform in Dynamics 365.
All right, let's dive in. What's new in the world of low-code and business applications?
Well, there's some pretty specific stuff here that might not be for everyone, but it's definitely worth mentioning. So for those working with the U.S. federal government, there are these Federal Copilot Studio Agent templates.
Okay, so like pre-built templates for government-specific AI applications.
Right. Could be a huge time saver for those folks.
Definitely. Now, what about our Power BI users? Anything new for them?
There's this resource on how to develop complex DAX expressions. So DAX, that's the formula language used in Power BI, right? And if you can master these more complex expressions, you can really unlock some serious insights from your data.
That's powerful stuff. DAX can be a bit intimidating, but once you get the hang of it, the possibilities are pretty much endless.
Absolutely. And for the Power Apps folks out there, there's a big update for you too. The February 2025 feature update. It covers all the latest and greatest in Power Apps, so definitely worth checking out.
Keeping those apps fresh and powerful.
I know it. Okay, so remember Copilot Studio, the AI-powered low-code platform?
Yeah.
Well, they're changing how they bill for it. Now it's Copilot Studio per message billing access for everyone.
So instead of paying for like a subscription or something, you just pay for each message the AI processes.
Exactly. Could be a big deal, especially for smaller projects or if you're just getting started with Copilot Studio.
Makes it more accessible for sure.
Right. And for the more technical folks out there, those who are managing Power Pages deployments, there's a guide on streamlining ALM in Power Pages with environment variables for site settings.
Okay, so ALM, that's application lifecycle management, right?
Yeah.
Keeping things organized and under control throughout the entire life cycle of an application.
You got it. And using environment variables is a really smart way to make deployment smoother and more consistent, less headaches for the devs.
Always a good thing. And finally, to round out the Power Platform and Dynamics 365 section, there's this resource on how to deploy transformational enterprise-wide agents, Microsoft, as Customer Zero. So they're basically sharing their own experiences as they roll out these complex AI agents across their own organization.
Yeah, and Microsoft, they're a pretty big organization. So whatever they learn, it's probably valuable for anyone else trying to do something similar.
Right. Lessons learned for the front lines. Okay, time to shift gears. Let's talk DevOps, SRE, and infrastructure.
Okay, so first up, we got a must-read for any developer working with APIs or user authentication. It's called Mastering OAuth 2.0 Step by Step. Now, OAuth 2.0, that's the standard for how applications can securely access resources on behalf of users.
Yeah, you got to know OAuth 2.0 these days. It's everywhere.
Absolutely essential. Now, this next one is really interesting. It's about running fully in-browser graph RAG with KuzuWASM. Remember RAG?
Yeah, retrieval augmented generation. We talked about it earlier, the Azure thing.
Right. So imagine running that, but entirely in your web browser.
Okay, so no server needed. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it opens up some really interesting possibilities for performance, offline capabilities, maybe even privacy in certain scenarios.
Lots of potential there. Now, back to something a little more, I guess, traditional. There's a video on how to connect your web app directly to a database.
Yeah. Now, this isn't always the best way to do things, especially for large, complex applications, but it's good to know how it works. And it can be useful in some cases, like for smaller projects or for learning purposes.
Right. Understanding the basics never hurts. Now, shifting our perspective a bit, there's this article about journey-centric design, the evolution of design ops.
This is a really important shift in how we think about building and running technology. It's all about focusing on the user's entire experience from start to finish, rather than just individual features or components.
So like thinking about the whole journey, not just the individual steps along the way.
Exactly. And that's becoming more and more crucial as technology becomes more integrated into our lives.
Right. It's got to be seamless. It's got to be intuitive.
Absolutely. Now, this next one is pretty technical, but really interesting. It's about Stroglite, Meta's eBPF profiler framework for massive infra.
Okay, eBPF, that's like a way to analyze what's happening at the kernel level, right? Really deep system stuff.
You got it. And Meta, Facebook's parent company, they use this thing called Stroglite to analyze their massive infrastructure.
So even though it's from Meta, are there lessons here that other folks could apply?
Oh, definitely. Anyone working with large, complex systems could learn something from how they approach performance profiling at that scale.
Makes sense. And finally, to wrap up this section, there's an article about, not just for developers, how product and security teams can use GitHub Copilot.
This is a good reminder that AI tools like GitHub Copilot can be useful for more than just writing code. They can help with product management, security analysis, all sorts of things.
AI expanding beyond the realm of just developers.
Yes.
Okay, data, analytics and AI time. Always a big one.
Absolutely. So first up, there's this video on SQL projects for everyone in VS Code.
VS Code, that's Visual Studio Code, right? Like the super popular code editor.
Yep. So they're making it easier to work with SQL databases right within VS Code.
Streamlining the workflow, making it more accessible.
Exactly. Now, on the AI front, there's this concept of agentic mesh, building highly reliable agents.
Agentic mesh, huh? Sounds complicated.
Well, it's all about building AI agent systems that are more robust and dependable because, as we rely on these agents for more and more critical tasks, they got to be able to handle failures gracefully.
Right, no crashing and burning when the stakes are high.
Exactly. And the newsletter also mentions this report from Gartner. Gartner outlines data and analytics trends for 2025.
Gartner, they always have their finger on the pulse of what's happening in the industry.
Yeah, so this is a good one to check out if you're thinking about the future of data and analytics in your organization.
Strategic planning, got to stay ahead of the curve.
Absolutely. And for those of you working with large language models, the things that power a lot of these new AI tools, there's a resource on measuring prompt effectiveness, metrics and methods.
So prompt engineering, right?
Yeah.
Crafting those instructions that tell the AI what to do, it's becoming a real skill.
Yeah, and being able to measure how effective your prompts are, that's crucial for getting the best results from these models.
Okay, so it's not just about writing any old prompt. It's about writing good ones, measurable ones.
Exactly. And here's an interesting one. It's about Claude AI, which is another AI model out there. It's called How to Get the Most Out of Claude AI 5 Prompts to Try Now.
So like practical tips for working with a specific AI.
Yep. And it's always good to see different approaches, because different models have different strengths and weaknesses.
Right. Diversity in the AI world.
Absolutely. Now, there's also an announcement about AI functions for seamless data engineering with Gen AI.
Gen AI. So that's like generative AI, right?
Yeah.
This stuff that can create things, write text, generate code.
Exactly. And they're integrating it directly into data engineering workflows.
So what, automating those complex data tasks, making things easier for the data engineers?
Exactly. And finally, for this section, we have a research paper. It's about parameter-efficient fine-tuning frameworks for large AI models, stuff like LoRa, Calora, and test time scaling.
Sounds pretty technical.
It is, but the basic idea is that these techniques allow you to customize those massive AI models without having to retrain the entire thing from scratch.
Which would be a huge undertaking, right?
Yeah, so this is all about efficiency, getting the most out of these powerful models without using up all your computing resources.
Okay, efficient AI, got it. Now let's move on to something a little more serious. Security, compliance, and privacy.
Always important. So first up, for those of you in the financial industry or dealing with sensitive financial data in the cloud, there's a playlist from the CSA FinCloud Security Summit 2025. Lots of great information there specific to the challenges faced by the financial sector.
Yeah, security and finance, that's a whole other ballgame.
It is. Now, there's also a mention of this open source tool called Fix Inventory, open source cloud asset inventory tool.
Inventory, that's like knowing what you have in the cloud, right? All your resources, your data, all that stuff.
Exactly. And you got to know what you have before you can protect it. It's fundamental for both security and compliance.
Makes sense. Now, here's a quick tip that could come in handy. It's about enabling incognito mode in RDP to hide all the traces.
So RDP, that's remote desktop protocol, right, for accessing computers remotely?
Yeah. So what? This incognito mode prevents your session data from being stored on the local machine.
Exactly. A good little privacy and security boost.
Nice. Now, let's look at the future of security a bit. There's a video on redefining cloud security with the power of blockchain and AI.
Blockchain, with its immutability, and AI, with its analytical power, they could really shake things up in the security world.
Sounds like a powerful combination.
It is. Now, speaking of the future, NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, has selected a new algorithm for post-quantum encryption. It's called HQC.
Post-quantum encryption. That's about protecting data even if quantum computers become powerful enough to crack current encryption methods, right?
Exactly. It's all about thinking ahead, staying one step ahead of the game.
Smart. Now, for those who live and breathe data governance and compliance within the Microsoft ecosystem, there's a video of a Microsoft Purview AMA.
AMA, that's Ask Me Anything, right. So a great opportunity to get your questions answered by the experts.
Direct access, always valuable.
Absolutely. Now, there's also a discussion on Goodbye, legacy VPNs. Hello, secure access to on-premises resources. So they're talking about moving beyond traditional VPNs for accessing company resources.
Yeah, VPNs are a bit old school now, aren't they?
Yeah, there are more modern, more secure, and more user-friendly ways to do it now.
Gotcha. And NIST has also finalized some guidelines for differential privacy, which is a way to de-identify data while still preserving its usefulness for analysis.
Yeah, that's a really important area, balancing the need for data with the need for privacy.
Absolutely. And finally, to wrap up the security section, there's a resource on how QR code attacks work and how to protect yourself, 10 must-reads for CISOs.
A timely reminder that even simple things like QR codes can be exploited. You gotta stay vigilant.
Always be careful out there. Okay, let's move on to something a little more, I guess, positive. Learning and certifications.
All right, so first up, for those looking to get into Azure Data Services, there's a playlist for the DP900 Azure Data Fundamentals certifications.
Certifications, they're a great way to validate your skills, show potential employers that you know your stuff.
Absolutely. And speaking of upskilling, Microsoft is hosting this Microsoft AI Skills Fest.
Sounds like a big event.
Yeah, it's all about developing skills in AI, which is, kind of a big deal these days.
For sure. Now, here's a different perspective on skill development. It's an interview titled, Learn Fewer Skills, but Go Deeper, the Caleb Curry interview.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea, focusing on mastering a few key areas rather than trying to learn everything about everything.
Quality over quantity, maybe.
Exactly. And for all you project managers out there, or anyone who uses Microsoft Planner, there's a video on how to use the new Microsoft Planner Copilot agent for project management.
AI coming to help us manage our projects.
That's the trend. Now, for those specifically interested in Microsoft's data platform, there's this series called Fabric Espresso Episodes about data integration and data engineering in Microsoft Fabric.
Microsoft Fabric, that's their big data analytics platform, right?
Yep. So this series will get you up to speed on all things Fabric.
Nice. And finally, for this section, there's a Viva Engage Monday Masterclass on effective training and adoption strategies.
Because even the best technology is useless if people don't know how to use it, right?
Right. Training and adoption. Got to make sure everyone's on board. Okay. Last but not least, let's wrap things up with some industry news and trends.
All right. So first up, there's this really cool visualization of all of the world's data. It really gives you a sense of the sheer scale of information out there.
It's mind-boggling, really.
It is. Now, here's something interesting. Despite all the excitement around AI, a recent report says that AI adoption in the workplace still low 2 years later.
Really? Why do you think that is?
It's a good question. Maybe a lack of understanding, maybe concerns about privacy, maybe integration challenges, who knows?
Lots to think about there. Now, on the consumer side, there's this list from Andreessen Horowitz, the top 100 Gen AI consumer apps 4th edition.
So these are the generative AI apps that are making waves with consumers. Always interesting to see what's catching on.
Yeah, could be a sign of things to come in the enterprise world.
Absolutely. And Mistral, they're an AI company. They've released a new API that turns PDFs into markdown files that are ready for AI processing.
So what, like making it easier to analyze PDFs with AI?
Exactly. Could be a real-time saver for anyone who works with a lot of documents.
Yeah, for sure. There was also a webinar with Microsoft and Josh Bersin talking about how AI is changing the employee experience platform.
Definitely a key trend to watch, how technology, AI, and the employee experience all come together.
Yeah, the future of work is being shaped right before our eyes. And finally, we have a bit of competitive news in the AI landscape. Anthropic, they're another AI company, their Claude 3.7 model is becoming really popular for coding tasks.
Yeah, it's being called the coding agent of choice by some. So competition is heating up in the AI world.
Which is good, right? Drives innovation.
Absolutely. And Anthropic has also launched a new platform that makes it easier for everyone in a company to collaborate on AI projects, not just the tech teams.
So like democratizing AI within organizations.
Exactly, making it more accessible, more collaborative.
Okay, so that was a lot, right? We've covered a ton of ground here, from Azure to AI to security to the future of work.
Yeah. But hopefully you've gotten a good sense of what's happening in the tech world right now.
And maybe you even found a few resources that you can use, some new tools to explore, some ideas to think about.
Absolutely. And with all this innovation happening, all this potential being unlocked, it really makes you wonder, what's next?
It does. And that brings us to our final thought for today. We saw that AI adoption in the workplace is still pretty low, despite all the advancements and potential. So what do you think is the biggest barrier holding back wire AI integration? Is it fear? Is it a lack of understanding? Is it something else entirely? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, keep exploring.